Global happenings today. We communicate, we analyze global news. Stay tuned. There have been concerns over Tinubu's whereabouts 1 week after his official trip to Saudi Arabia for the Special World Economic Forum meeting. Don't forget that the meeting ended on the 29th of April, and it was expected that maybe on the 1st, the president would be back home. But up till now, nobody knows his whereabouts, and nobody is talking about it. The vice president was expected to leave the country also attend another very important meeting. But because of one or two things, what I heard was that the jet that was scheduled to take him out to Dallas, in the United States of America, had some issues, and because of that, he decided to cancel the planned trip. Because of the faulty, aircraft. Yesterday, the former VP, Atiku Abubakar, came up to lambast the presidency over the vacancy in Aso Rock. The president is not around. The vice president was intending to leave the country. What is going on? Is the country on autopilot? But then Boala, who had been his aide, came out to also talk down on whatever concern he was raising, and he said that it was already in the constitution. And since Aso Rock is not, or presidency is not a brick industry, and Tinubu is not a bricklayer, then it was cool for him to travel. But guess what? The concerns are still growing, and the most Nigerians believe that Bola Ahmed Tinubu missing for as much as 1 week is a way of taking Nigerians for granted. First in the list, the person who spoke up about it was Adeyanju, and Adeyanju, according to information made available, he says even if the presidency don't know where the president is, and I have come to the conclusion that the president of Nigeria is missing, whether or not anybody likes it. This government is irresponsible and does not believe in accountability. Can you imagine the president of America disappearing for 1 week, or the British prime minister, or the prime minister of Canada, or the French president? Things like this can only happen in a banana republic. Even George Orwell's Animal Farm will do better, because when the king of the jungle goes missing, all kinds of things start happening. It serves to say that the country is without a captain. Unfortunately, there is nobody to pinpoint in this government that is capable of administering. The last we heard about the missing president is that his jet malfunctioned, and since then he had not been seen or cited by anyone. Even if the president is undergoing medical tourism, Nigerians deserve to know the president of a country can't just disappear into thin air without any explanation. President Tinubu is taking Nigerians for granted. Even if he does not rate Nigerians, he should rate the millions of people that voted for him. There can be no justification whatsoever for this kind of rude behavior. And also, one of the things that he talked about was the fact that the National Assembly are not reacting. And according to Adeyanju, he berated the National Assembly over its inability to perform a statutory function of check and balances, and hence the vacuum created in government. He says there is no National Assembly. One that is headed by Akpabio, is that a National Assembly? That is just a department in the villa, a department in the office of the Chief of Staff. The National Assembly has been reduced to a department in the office of the Chief of Staff. That is why the President does not rate them. A National Assembly that says anything the President wants could serve as a check and balance. The president should have handed over to his vice when he knew that he was going to disappear, but that was not done, and the so-called vice was about to leave the country. We don't even know who is in charge of the country. That is why I said Nigeria is currently without a captain. Things have never been this bad in the area of checks and balances, and I am of the view that we don't have a legislature in the country. What we have is a department of the presidency pretending to be the legislature, which is most unfortunate. One of the lawyers, Madu Buachi Idam, also spoke up concerning what is happening, and he says that the constitution says if for any reason the president is not available to discharge the function of his office, the office of the vice president steps into his shoes and carry out the function of that office. Now, when the president and his vice are not present to discharge the function of that office, it's an abnormality. It's an irresponsible act. The president and his vice run on the same ticket, and that's why the doctrine of necessity enabled the vice president to step into the shoes of the president and carry out his duties. Now, the constitution does not speculate a situation where the president and his vice are absent from the office. The constitution did not provide for such an anomaly. It's a clear abdication of duty by those elected officers. What happened is that the government has become headless. The constitution did not speculate a situation where the president and vice president will not be present at a country. What a constitution provides is that when the president is not available to discharge the duty of his office, he transmits power to the vice president, who will step in his shoes to carry out the function of his office, pending when normalcy will return, or in the case of ill health, when he will be healthy. This is serious. He went further to point out that if Tinubu and Shettima are absent from duty at the same time, that it warrants impeachment. And he says this has exposed the lacuna and the irresponsible act of the president, because a responsible occupier of that post is expected by the constitution to have transmitted power to the vice president when leaving the country for any reason. Now, when he decides to leave the country without transmitting power and the vice president does the same, it has become worrisome. A constitutional quagmire and impunity committed in that regard. For the two of them to leave the country without adhering to the constitution amounts to gross misconduct, which warrant impeachment by the National Assembly. If we have an acting National Assembly which is not a rubber stamp, it would have immediately convened a sitting and move a motion for the impeachment of the president and vice president for acting recklessly. It is a gross misconduct as speculated by the constitution, and a clear case of impunity which warrant impeachment if they have the courage to do that. So many other reactions have also come up. Bwala's case is also there, but my colleague is in the house, and we feel it's important for us to say something about this. What do you think? Do you think that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu possibly may have learned from his predecessor not to give a damn about the emotions of Nigeria? They just have to accept whatever I roll out to them. Do you think that's the situation we are seeing here?
Well, apart from him learning, let me borrow that word from you, apart from him learning from his predecessor, it's a case of also having friends in all the various arms of government who would readily protect his interest. If you watch well, he was very careful when he was making all his choices. Godswill Akpabio is very loyal to him, so much as to the point that during one of the first plenaries, we saw Godswill Akpabio wear the Jagaban cap on his head, showing pure solidarity. That the funny part, loyalty. The funny part is these arms were created as checks and balances, but unfortunately, our politicians have reduced those arms to become extensions of their own arms. To the point also that you could even say it's an appendage of the presidency. And that's why you see Nigerians are not really ready. Some persons will say we can only rant on social media. What else again can we do? But normally, when the president is not on seat, the vice should be on seat. Now, if the both of them are not on seat, they should transfer power to the Godswill Akpabio. But they wouldn't, because just like what Bola said, which we have seen happen, anybody can rule from any place, like they have done already. So if it has happened before, heaven did not fall. So it can also happen again, and heaven will not fall. That's exactly what you're saying here. So we can keep talking about the constitution from now till eternity. But the truth is, will there be a change? I don't see any change coming. He could not. Just some prominent journalists have been asking, please, where's our president? Even if he had disappeared to Bermuda Triangle, we want to know where he is. Whether we ask or not, when it is time, he will still come back.
Of course.
One expected this same thing that we're talking about. I cannot forget the first time he transmitted power during the time of Buhari to Osibanjo. We saw drastic change within 2 weeks. That was the last time Osibanjo ever tested power as trying to sit in for the president. So I don't even see Tinubu also handing power to Shettima like Oshede. It will not happen.
This is really serious. But however, let's leave it there. Possibly when the president comes back, we will see him. But this is a lesson that Nigerians should learn, And I'm hopeful that he's safe wherever he is.
Oh, he's safe.
And I know that even if Nigerians don't know where the president is, I know some of the top guys, they know where he is.